that his reign ended before he died, which is not typical of monarchs. Of all the monarchs that we have looked at, their reign ended when they died. So I wonder what happened to cause Edward II to lose his throne before his death in September of 1327. So, Edward II might have been a handsome guy, but he didn't inherit any of his father, Edward I's impressive leadership skills. Oh dear. He does look kind of handsome, but I'm not really sure what handsome was back in those days. So he surrounded himself with close favourites rather than sensible advisors, and those who weren't his favourites were less than happy. The result of this divisive ruling style was a civil war, and then Edward's own wife, Isabella, launched an invasion, forcing the king to give up the throne to his son. So that's what happened here. Now, I've often thought to myself how stupid it is to leave the throne to your children, because obviously you get different personalities and you get different lifestyles and upbringings and thoughts and feelings, and more often than not they are just not qualified to rule the kingdom. And I always thought that it was a bit kind of naive of kings to want an heir to leave the throne to carry on the name, and I can see why they did it, but it just seems like the most stupid thing to do, because eventually you're either going to get usurped if you're a bad ruler and your family title and legacy is going to go to pot anyway, or, I don't know, you just cause the country to become in such a chaotic way, then you end up losing your throne anyway. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on the matter. So Edward II gave his number one favourite, Piers Gaveston, title and lands without Gaveston having done anything to deserve them. And this infuriated the English barons. Again, the barons, the rich people of England, again, are frequently embroiled in turmoil and strife in this era. They rose up against the king and beheaded Gaveston. That sounds like a heartburn remedy. I think I'm Gaveston, I don't know. But, so he's beheaded. But Edward didn't learn his lesson. He simply fell for new favourites. The two Hughs, Hugh the Despencer, Earl of Winchester, and his son. This was too much for the barons, and the civil war broke out. But actually, Edward managed to win this second civil war. But his wife, Isabella, launched an invasion from France with her lover, Roger Mortimer, and in 1327 they forced Edward to give up the throne. Here's another woman that I really want to do another video on, Isabella. She sounds interesting, and I love that she had a lover as well, quite openly. Alright, Edward II was imprisoned and eventually murdered in a rather horrible way. Oh dear, I wonder what happened there. Military might. In 1314, Edward II led the English army into battle against the Scots. Now remember, the Scots have always been very tricky people, and nobody really could corral them. massive victory over the bigger force, and Edward was forced to flee for his life. Oh dear, how embarrassing for him. Royal romance. Edward II's favouritism didn't just annoy the barons, it also isolated him from his wife, Isabella. Rumour had it that Edward chose to spend his wedding celebrations with Pierre's Gaveston instead of Isabella. Draw your own conclusions on that. Maybe they were in a relationship together. So, having suffered from Gaveston's friendship with the king, the arrival at court of new favourites, the Le Dispensers, was more than the feisty French woman could stand. Oh, we're talking about Isabella, so she's got rid of this guy, but now she's had to deal with these two dispensers. She went back to France, where she started an affair with Roger Mortimer, the Earl of March, and Isabella's vengeful nature earned her the nickname the She-Wolf of France. Ooh, definitely going to have to do a video about her. Awkward end. Oh my goodness. So, Edward II was supposedly murdered by having a burning hot poker stuck up his bottom. Wow, what a king that is. He's very, very interesting. Oh dear. So, let's quickly look at the painting. So apparently he was considered very, very handsome. Look at him and all his finery there. And I can see, again, we've got the curly hair, the beard. He's in this like formal regal attire with a scepter and thingy that I can't remember. So let's have a look at the timeline of his life here. So he was born in 1284, and in 1307 he succeeds to the throne. In 1315 to 1317 there was the Great Famine, and we've got a Daily Monarch article here about that. So the Great Famine. Millions across Europe starved to death as bad spring weather caused harvests to rot. Rumours of cannibalism were rife amidst widespread crime, disease, and starvation. Ooh, that's awful. Maybe this one could go on the list to find out more about that. Sounds gruesome. In 1326, Queen Isabella invades. Here we are, the She-Wolf of France. Let's find out a little bit more about her. She seems badass. So she was born in 1295 and she died in 1358. For years, Isabella, the beautiful young French queen of Edward II, put up with being second best to his court favourites. Finally, she snapped and returned to France, where she found herself an ambitious lover, Roger Mortimer. The lovers invaded England and had Edward captured, probably also ordering his murder. Isabella had acted without taking into account the fiery spirit of her son Edward III, who avenged his father by imprisoning his mother and executing Mortimer as soon as he was old enough to rule alone. Killing his mother would have been a step too far for the new king. Isabella was quickly freed and forgiven. So, like we have discovered with other queens in the past, like Matilda of Flanders and other queens, do not anger the queen. Do not mess with her, because she will mess with you tenfold and make you regret it. So seemed to me that Edward II favoured the company of men. Obviously, in this day and age, that's not a problem whatsoever, but back in those days, homosexuality, well, I'm just sort of guessing here. It seems pretty obvious that he was in a relationship with this Piers Gaveston, and he had no time or interest in his wife. I guess he must have done because he produced heirs, but I think he was too wrapped up in his own sort of self-absorption and wanting to surround himself with all his friends and fanciers. So, he seems a little bit sort of not king material, and it goes to show that he didn't have any sort of knowledge about military sort of influence or military tactics, because he lost to the Scots in this battle here. It seems a little bit cruel how he was murdered, but don't anger the she-wolf of France. I'm glad he got his comeuppance though, because kings like this can often cause more damage if they are left unchecked, and hopefully his son Edward III was better than his dad, but we'll look at that in the next video. So let's take the quiz and see how much we have learnt. So question 1 of 3. In 1314, Edward II was defeated in a battle against which famous Scottish king? Was it Robert the Bruce, James IV, Macbeth, or Malcolm II? I'm going to go with Robert the Bruce. Correct. Edward II was defeated by a Scottish army led by Robert the Bruce. Question 2 of 3. There were rumours of cannibalism during the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317. Was this false? Or was this true? This was true, and I want to find out more about it. Correct. Millions of people across Europe starved to death as bad spring weather caused harvests to rot, and there were indeed rumours of cannibalism. I wonder what had caused this bad spring weather. Certainly it wasn't global warming. Alright, next question. Question 3 of 3. What was Edward II's wife, Isabella, also known as? The She-Wolf of France, the Fair Maid of Brittany, the Fair Maid of Kent, or Holy Roman Empress? Oh, she was the She-Wolf of France. And what a great nickname for her. Ruthless and ambitious, Isabella earned the nickname the She-Wolf of France. And I often find that the women who are, the queens that were ruthless, often were just, well, even more so than their male counterparts because of their sex. They were often overlooked. They were often sort of just left to get on with things, and I think, from my perspective, that kind of gave them like the advantage, because men saw them as lesser class citizens. I suppose you could use that to your advantage and take people by surprise. So we got all of those questions right, which is great. So Edward II, what a rubbish king. There seems to have been a string of really, really bad kings during this time, apart from his dad, which is a shame really, because during these times people were trying to invade left, right and centre, and I think if you had a weak leader on the throne, you were more likely to be invaded or usurped, or people trying to this sort of rebellion here happened. They did talk about the Civil War, did they? That's right. So that was the defining moment of his bad reign. He was kicked off his throne and his son was put in place there. I'm glad that Isabella wasn't killed, but her lover was. I'm glad that Edward III spared her life. It would have been a bit bad to kind of kill your own mother. So, Isabella, you are going on my list to explore because you sound like a very interesting lady. So, we will be going on to Edward III next, and this portrait actually is very famous. I've kind of seen that on a lot of history channels and stuff like that, and it seems like he was a really important dude, so I'm looking forward to looking at him next video. So thank you so much everybody for listening. I really hope that you have found this to be relaxing as well as informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video when we look at Edward III. I hope you have a wonderful day, guys, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.